everyone, this video is going to show you how to annotate. I really want to emphasize throughout this video that annotating is one of the tools that you are using as a reader to help work through a complex text or to make deeper meaning of a text, something that helps you understand and then you're able to converse or have a discussion about this text later on. If we were in class right now, I would show you a bunch of the different texts I used even when I was in college that I annotated or worked through in this way. Again, this is just one skill that you can use to show your teacher what type of reader you are and then also to help you grow as a reader personally. The first thing that we are going to do is take a look at that rubric. Again, that rubric is a guiding piece for you as you are annotating. If you look at the very top of that rubric, you will see the expectations or the tasks. So the first thing that you would do, that I'm guessing a lot of you do already, is go through and highlight important information. One step further, as you can look later down, is that in addition to highlighting important information, I'm going to ask that you also tell me why you highlighted it. What is your opinion, or what's a question that you have that goes along with that highlighted text? Another thing that good readers do, and this is something maybe you don't realize that you are doing, is that you come across words that you may not understand. And so one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is circle those words, and then instead of just using context clues to try to figure out that word, that we're going to go look them up on the Google. The last thing that I'm going to ask you to do, because this is again something that good readers do, is when you are all done with a certain section or a certain number of paragraphs, that you're going to go back and try to summarize those paragraphs in your own words. This is something that really gives the teacher as well as you an idea of whether or not you actually understood what you are reading. The bottom portion of this rubric that you see here then is going to tell you a letter grade if you complete all these tasks above and how well you did on them. So that's what you would see then in Infinite Campus. This is the article I'm going to use to demonstrate how to annotate today. One of the first things I always ask students to do is put their name on the top of the paper. You may also want to put your hour if your teacher has multiples of those hours. In case you're ever absent or have to turn this assignment in late, they know exactly what hour that I can go with. The next thing that I always ask students to do is to number the paragraphs. The reason why we number the paragraphs is when we have discussions later on, or if you need to reference this as you are writing, you already have those paragraphs numbered and no need to then go back and count them. So we're going to start off by saying In July Hunters Lured is paragraph number 1. The Killing of Cecil is paragraph number 2. Up here at the top, More Than a Million People is paragraph number 3. Amid the Uproar is paragraph number 4. Indeed, the Debate Over is paragraph number 5. There's Evidence That is paragraph number 6. Others Including Many is paragraph number 7. Africa Has Lost Up To is paragraph 8. But Conservationists Agree is paragraph number 9. Paragraph number 10 up here is a tricky one. Right by the elephant's ear, it says That's a Problem That Many is paragraph 10. That's What's Happening in Botswana is paragraph 11. Before When There Was Hunting is paragraph 12. African Nations Set Varying Rules is paragraph number 13. Such Problems Have Led is paragraph 14. Nambia's Success Story is paragraph 15. And last but not least, We Don't Live in an Age Anymore is paragraph 16. So you should have 16 paragraphs total in your reading. The next thing I'm going to ask is that as we go through and read again, the whole purpose of annotating is that we are going to be putting our thoughts down on paper. In order to do this, I'm actually going to be using two different utensils here. I'm going to be using a highlighter and then a colored pen. If you want to continue using pencil, that's perfectly fine and up to you. So starting off in paragraph number 1, it says, In July, hunters lured a 13-year-old lion named Cecil from a protected area in a national park in Zimbabwe. First question I have is, where in the world is Zimbabwe? And so what I'm going to do is I am going to underline that. Take a second to look up where Zimbabwe is on a map using the Google, and then I might actually draw a picture of Africa here. I know that's not maybe my best drawing. And here is Zimbabwe. It's in the eastern coast, or on the eastern coast of Africa. I might even note that, eastern coast of Africa. So I know where exactly we are talking about in my reading. Something else I'm wondering about this paragraph is if it says that this is a protected area, I'm wondering how there were hunters there. And so that's what I'm going to write. I'm going to write right here, if protected, why were there hunters there? As I continue reading, it says, a dentist from Minnesota who had paid more than $50,000 for the chance to kill an African lion wounded Cecil with a crossbow. He then reportedly tracked the lion for nearly 2 days before fatally shooting him with a rifle. I have a lot of thoughts going through my mind right now. And so one of them is this idea that he paid more than $50,000 to do this. And I'm thinking, or I'm kind of wondering, who this money goes to. So I'm going to write that down. Another thought I have is my husband's a hunter, and he's one of the hunters who he hunts deer and things like that, and I know that he would feel absolutely terrible if he wounded something and didn't kill it right away, and think of that as very inhumane. And so I'm going to make that connection here. And so this portion that says that he reportedly tracked this lion for nearly 2 days, I am then going to take that portion here. Oops. And I'm going to write that over here. So I'm going to say that this seems inhumane that the lion was injured so long. Paragraph 2 then goes on to say, the killing of Cecil, who was a local tourist attraction and had been studied by scientists since 2008, caused an uproar on social media and sparked outrage around the world. This portion right here about the cause an uproar on social media, now I'm old enough that I actually remember this, and so I might write, I remember hearing about this when I was in high school and wondered why people talked about it so much. So that would be my next thought that I would have. I would finish out that paragraph where it said it also renewed the debate over trophy hunting and how best to preserve Africa's wildlife. Now, I would continue reading. I might also stop here and then write my summary, which I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to review exactly what I have read so far in paragraphs 1 and 2. After I'm done reading a few paragraphs or maybe a whole section, I'm going to go back then and create a summary. Again, your summary is an indicator to you and your teacher of whether or not you understood the text. So I want to make sure I use keywords in my summary that show I have read and understood what's being talked about in paragraphs 1 and 2. So here at the bottom, I'm going to write that a hunter paid a lot of money to kill a lion in Zimbabwe, which caught a lot of media attention. Again, I've gone through paragraphs 1 and 2 and I've put in ideas from both paragraphs and given some specifics. I'm going to go through and continue annotating paragraphs 3 through 7 and thinking out loud, showing or modeling to you some of the annotations that I would do. So this one here says more than 1 million people have signed a petition asking Zimbabwe to stop issuing permits to hunt animals like lions and elephants. So already as I am looking through this, I may not know what the word petition means, and so I am going to highlight it. After I have looked up the word petition on the Google, maybe at the very top of this page, I would write the word petition. And I am going to then write the definition. And so the definition I found on the Google says that it is a formal written request, typically one signed by many people, appealing to authority, with respect to a particular clause. So there's my definition. Sometimes definitions might only have like one word that you know a synonym by chance, and then you can just write that synonym right above it as well. Another thing that I am thinking is, okay, this was a lot of people asking, you know, for them to stop. And so I'm thinking, well, if the government is being asked by more than 1 million people to stop this, I'm wondering, does the government get all that money? And then kind of thinking about, like, if they get all that money, do they actually give it back to those people? So that's something that I am wondering about. As I continue reading, it says, and some major U.S. airlines announced that they would no longer transport big game trophies like lion heads. The American dentist Walter Palmer, who says he thought the hunt was legal, received death threats and faced an online campaign to have him extradited. Another thing is, if he thought this was legal, you know, I would want to know who it was that let him believe that it was legal. So who his guide was. So I'm saying, who is the guide that let him think this? As you can see, I'm really a questions person because I have my questions here. As I continue, it says, you know, that he faced an online campaign to have him extradited to Zimbabwe. If I didn't know what the word extradited means, I might highlight and look up that. Continuing on, it says he was forced to close his office in Bloomington, Minnesota for more than 2 weeks when it was surrounded by protesters. Now, this might seem kind of mean of me, but I'm thinking, if he could afford a $50,000 hunt, guessing he's not hurting for money. From being closed. So that was one of the first thoughts that came into my head, is he paid a lot of money already, so I think that closing may not have been the worst thing, especially if he was receiving some death threats, right? So maybe it was for his own safety as well. I would then continue on where it says, amid the uproar, some Africans were perplexed by the sadness over Cecil's death. Again, I don't know what the word perplexed means, so I might look that up. I found out that the word perplexed means very puzzled, and so I'm going to write that in here. Again, some of these you can just write right on top if it's only a few short words. And then it's right there too when I reread through this. Do all of these Americans signing petitions understand that lions actually kill people? Goodwill Nazau, who grew up in Zimbabwe, wrote in the New York Times, they are objects of terror. So again, this is another perspective here, and so I'm just going to put that in, because I want to make note of that. Again, these annotations are not only for you to remember what was being talked about or to work through complex text, but if I need to go back and reference it again, I want to make sure I know, like, hey, this is another spot. People aren't just saying, like, it's terrible of him to kill these lions, but now this person is telling us that it's maybe a good thing. Continuing with paragraph number 5, it says, indeed, the debate over trophy hunting isn't as simple as it first seemed. Though some think it's a cruel and tasteless sport, many wildlife experts contend that regulated hunting actually helps preserve wildlife by generating money for conservation programs. So again, if I don't know what the word conservation means, I might have to look that one up. Once I got done looking on the Google, it said that conservation is along the lines of protection, and so I'm going to write that in there. I also have this thought pertaining to this entire paragraph, and so I'm just going to create a bracket right here, and I'm going to write down this idea that although my husband hunts, in this particular instance, as we talk about endangered species, I don't agree with hunting endangered species. I don't think that people should be allowed to do that. I could also take this one step further and continue discussing why I think that, but that would also be a great discussion point, is talking about why I don't agree with that, so I could write that in. And then I continue, there's evidence that well-managed hunting actually can contribute to conservation globally, says Mike Hoffman, a senior scientist at the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Others, including many animal rights activists, disagree. Trophy hunting of endangered species in this modern day is not necessary, says Jeffrey Flocken at the International Fund for Animal Welfare. It's just an additional threat on top of the other ones that these animals are already facing. And again, this is kind of what I was going along with before. I'm going to write bingo. Totally agree here. Animals they already have to survive in the wild. Humans should help, not hurt. And so that's what I am then going to write in there. The last thing, again, that I am going to do for these paragraphs is that I am going to write a summary. Now, it depends on where you have room. You could write a summary here at the top. You could write a summary at the bottom if you need to. I've also had students who have done sticky note summaries or summaries on a separate sheet of paper and then just numbered their paragraphs that way. So I'm going to write another summary. This summary I'm going to put at the bottom here because I have room. And so I'm going to label this one summary 3 through 7. And then I'm going to write that there are 2 sides to trophy hunting. And I'm not just going to stop there. I'm going to make sure that my reader knows, or that I know, what these 2 sides are. And so I'm going to say those who approve it. And those who think it hurts society overall. And so that's my summary there then. As I continue reading, I'm going to do the exact same things as I go through paragraphs 8 through 12. I might only write one summary for this one because it's only 4 or 5 paragraphs. And I would really focus on this bold heading here and making sure that these words in particular go into my summary, because obviously that's what this section's about. And then same thing for 13 through 16. I'm going to write one summary for that and really focus on that heading as well. If you have any other questions about what annotating looks like, remember we do have our other video that talks about assessing our own annotations. Ultimately, your teacher should be able to see that you have read the entire article, you've put your thoughts and questions down on paper, and you are able to have a discussion about this article that shows what you have read and what your understanding is of that article. If you have any questions, check in with your teacher. Bye.